Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and I'll be guiding you in a breathing mindfulness meditation session. And then afterwards, I'm going to be opening up to any and all questions that you have related to the path to enlightenment. So welcome. I'm pleased that you're here. If you'd like to join for meditation, you can take a position either seated, lying, or standing. These tend to work really well with online learning. There's also a walking position, but this one typically doesn't work so well with online learning, but you're welcome to use that if you'd like. I'm going to start off with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'm going to come in with some guidance. Then there'll be a period of time where it'll just be quiet and we'll just all be meditating together. Then I'm going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the path to enlightenment. You'll be able to put those into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you'll be able to raise your hand in Zoom electronically and ask any and all questions that you like. So if you'd like to join for meditation and you'd like to join into these chants, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then I'll be back with some guidance on the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind focused on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakato Rokavito Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatavap Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Those of you guys that are joining us online here through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or any of the other places that you're digesting this content, even if you're listening on the replay, welcome to everyone. If there's any questions that you guys have about the path to enlightenment, you're welcome to ask those. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. Okay, looks like Helena has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, teacher. So I'm not sure if the emotion of anger comes from the factor of sensual desire or from ill will.
Sure. So it's because of sensual desire that ill will exists. So when we talk about what is the root of anger, we talk about it as craving, desire, attachment, because if it wasn't for craving, desire, attachment, there wouldn't be any anger. So that's the root cause of anger. But yes, that ill will is in there, and that is a mental aspect of the mind, that mental object of ill will, which is arising as part of the central desire being triggered. That because there's a craving, desire, attachment, the mind's not getting what it wants, so therefore the ill will arise.
And what determines if a person will experience sadness or anger in a situation that is unpleasant to them?
It's just the depth of the craving, the type of craving, desire, attachment, and the depth of it, because there's a full spectrum of it, of craving. Even though we talk about it as craving, desire, attachment, it's really a full spectrum. Like, if you went into a 7-Eleven and they didn't have your chocolate bar, maybe a little irritated. Someone might be irritated or annoyed. But then if your mom died, that would be a whole nother level of craving, desire, attachment that's in the mind for somebody who hasn't let go. So there's a full spectrum of these cravings, and the emotion that you experience is going to be either lighter or stronger based on the spectrum of that craving. And also there can be multiple cravings involved in any particular situation where the mind is discontent. So if you have either a really strong craving, you can have really strong feelings, or if you have multiple cravings that are getting triggered in any one particular situation, you can have really strong feelings. And then there's kind of lighter feelings, like, sadness is kind of like in the middle, I think, in terms of the spectrum of these feelings. And then, on the lighter end, maybe just annoyment or kind of dislike or disappointed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. By the way, I apologize that I'm sick here. I been sick for a few days here, so apologize for my voice for all of you guys. Okay, looks like Yihang has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Teacher David. First, I wish you a soon recovery.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was curious that if that be possible that when someone dies, the person already get rid of all the cravings that has been triggered, but also there is also cravings that not being triggered.
Yeah, so sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
And then, I was just thinking, how should I put this into the words? Because it sounds like to me this could be very, very peaceful already, almost probably already close to enlightenment. Would that be?
Yeah, so if somebody goes to the point in their life where they've eliminated all their cravings and desires, attachments, of course the mind's enlightened at that point. So the rest of their life, they're going to be peaceful and joyful for the rest of this life. Let's just say, though, that somebody eliminated 99.9% of their cravings, and there's still some cravings that haven't been eliminated because they just never were confronted in those situations and never experienced those situations for those cravings, desires to get triggered. This is what's called residual clinging or residual craving. This individual is in the third stage of enlightenment. They're very rarely, if ever, even experiencing discontentedness, but there's still some residual craving and residual clinging there. And this person is in that third stage of enlightenment. And now, because of that, they're going to be reborn into the heavenly world, and now they're going to experience enlightenment from that realm.
Okay, so if there is craving, even though it might, for a long time not being triggered, it still has to be triggered at some time of the cycle of rebirth until it's being enlightened.
Yeah, a wise individual who's learning these teachings closely, once they start getting their arms around the Eightfold Path and they're moving through the jhanas and they're getting into that first and second stage of enlightenment, at that point you're kind of looking out for anything you can do to put the mind in a situation where it could potentially be triggered. This is like challenging the mind. You would like to do that, once you're in the first or second stage of enlightenment. This is really helpful, where you can really test the mind and challenge the mind to see if there's any kind of cravings or clinging there. And this is the way I describe it, is like wringing out a rag. If you have a wet rag and you're trying to get every last little drop out, you're just wringing it out and wringing it out and wringing it out and wringing it out, trying to get every last little drop out of the rag. And you would like to do that by putting your mind into various situations that you maybe aren't even sure whether or not your mind is attached or have any clinging or not, because discontentedness is the red light. that's going to tell you that there's craving, desire, attachment. So let's just say you weren't sure if you enjoy being around large crowds or not, and you're not sure. So if you go around a large crowd and you're around these large crowds and your mind's just perfectly content and perfectly joyful, there's no craving or clinging there. But if you're in that large crowd and then there's some discontentedness that is arising, you know that there's a craving and clinging there. So you need to continue to expose the mind to that situation until it lets go. And you can do this in any number of situations. Here at this house, they have a swimming pool outside, and it's a little bit cool right now because, here where I'm at in Mexico, it's a little bit cool and the water's quite cold. And me and the student's brother-in-law, we were going swimming, and it was really quite cold. And then the first 2 or 3 minutes, our body acclimated to it. And the student who's here that's hosting me, I was suggesting to her that she jump in because she wasn't interested in jumping in. She was like repulsed by it. And I was like, oh, you should jump in. Like, this will be a great opportunity to test your mind and challenge your mind. And ultimately she did. She actually went and got her bathing suit. It was like, 8 or 9 o'clock at night. She jumped off the balcony actually into the pool, and it was very, very cold. And you could tell that, she was really, working with her mind and making sure that, she was staying calm and, that kind of thing. And this is the kind of thing that you can do because the mind, for example, in this situation is going to crave permanent comfort. The mind wants that permanent comfort, and you would like to put the mind in various situations where it's not going to get that permanent comfort because the mind's craving permanent comfort of the body. Okay, well, let's do something to it to show it that, hey, you're not going to get that. You're going to get situations where sometimes the body's not going to be permanently comfortable. So you can jump into a bunch of cold water in a swimming pool where there's a bunch of people around, in case there's any issues. And this is a way to help the mind let go of any potential cravings or clinging. And these are the kinds of things you can do to expose the mind to various stimulus, whether it's certain foods. You can try different foods. If it's different fabrics or different types of clothing, different environments, all these different kinds of things are really helpful to expose the mind to and root out any kind of residual clinging or craving. Because what you're talking about is something that I describe as like there's dust in the corner and you just don't know that it's there, and you'd like to go into the corner and like root out any little dust in the corner. And this is the way that you do it, is by putting the mind in various situations that it isn't typically in, so that it can discover what are the cravings. And this is one of the ways that like a retreat is very good. For some of you guys that have been learning with me, you know that early on, I don't suggest you go to a 5, 10, 20, 30-day retreat where it's just complete silence and you're meditating all day, because an individual doesn't have the training that they need to work through that. But for an individual who's been training for a while, maybe you're in the jhanas, you're in the first or second stage of enlightenment, going into those kind of environments are perfect because you're not going to have your favorite pillow with you. You're not going to get that, wonderful hot cup of tea in the morning. You're not going to get that, nice, cozy, warm shower that you're used to, using the soap and shampoo that you always use, so you can really root out where any of these kind of residual cravings or where's the dust in the corner by going into an environment like that where you're in a retreat for an extended period of time. Then it can expose to you what your cravings are that you maybe didn't see and you missed. And now when you come out of the retreat, you can work on eliminating those from your mind.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say, because it sounds to me like then that might be a very important for this person to be very balanced, to say like in one side that makes sure this mind always keeps in a certain level that it can still handle this situation, to see there is a impermanence and a discontentedness and then try to get rid of it, but also make sure the balance that it's not at once too much of like impermanence and or discontentedness or cravings, finding out that it once has to handle too much, that it's a little bit getting to shake up level.
Yeah, this is the beauty about doing this yourself, because impermanence is going to come visit you. It's only a matter of time, right? You've got all kinds of impermanence around you. Whereas if you allow that to come to you, now you're kind of like stuck in the situation. Whereas if you go and visit it, where you put the mind in the situation where, it may have some craving or clinging, then you can train your mind to let it go. So for example, when I first started meditating, after I was meditating for several weeks, I thought that perhaps my mind was attached to meditating in my bedroom, because that's where I was meditating most frequently, was in my bedroom. So I started moving around. I started going to different temples, different parks, different environments to see if the mind was attached to meditating in any one particular place. And that was something I could do on my own. And what I would do is I would go out to a certain place and I would start meditating, and I would realize like, wow, my mind isn't nearly as stable in this environment meditating as it is at home. So I would kind of go out and meditate there, and then I would come back and meditate for 2 or 3 or 4 sessions in my home before I then would go back out and do a couple of places and then come back and forth. And I could introduce this impermanence based on my choices. And then eventually I just started meditating anywhere, anytime. So now, like when I'm traveling like this, I'm traveling on planes and buses, and I'm different houses, different places, different centers. We're actually teaching this course in a martial arts studio. I can meditate anywhere, anytime, because I've done that work. And now there's just as much as my mind is stable meditating at home, it's just as stable meditating anywhere else as well. So you can introduce impermanence like that based on your own choices. And that's going to be more comfortable for you, because if you notice that there's just too much discontentedness and too much shaking up, you can go back to giving the mind a little bit of what it wants before you start introducing some more impermanence to it.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, looks like Ted has a question. Go ahead, Ted.
Hi, David. It's actually Kristen, Ted's wife. I can't get his name off there, so.
Okay.
I just want to, just this talk right now, it's been so helpful, just hearing about sort of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to sort of challenge where you are. And I've recently just did that for myself, and I'm a little nervous about it. So I'm doing sort of I'm starting to practice being a teacher, and I've been sort of working towards this for a long time, but I have this sort of insecurity about it, and I just avoid it because I don't necessarily have to be a teacher, right? It was just something that I felt like I needed to do, sort of to just kind of challenge myself a little bit and get away from this idea of constantly being consumed with what people think and this sort of self, this constant like worry about others and what they're thinking. And I've been listening to you for a few weeks now. Well, since I was in Thailand, I've sort of been listening in and trying to work on some of the things that you've been sharing, and I've been reading the book, and this idea of like this self-identity that I can't seem to like quite let go of yet, and this attachment to what people think and that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, best way to do that is to put myself in that situation. So on Monday, I'm teaching a class, and I'm so nervous about it, and I'm trying to work on like letting go and just not worrying about it. But I still struggle with this idea of how to really tap into that, like letting go of that idea of self. So I'm just trying to get a little guidance there.
Sure. This is perfect, Kristen. Personal existence view is one of the more challenging ones to get rid of. And particularly if someone's approaching it early in practice like this, since you just started, because you need to really kind of soften up the mind with all the teachings on the Eightfold Path. And that includes the breathing mindfulness meditation and practicing the generosity. So that's going to train your mind to let go of craving and clinging. So typically the personal existence view is something that people will approach once they start getting into the jhanas, but there's no harm in approaching it sooner than that. It's just that it's a lot more challenging for it to let go of, because the mind hasn't even maybe let go of some of the more simple things, So you'd like to kind of typically work on shedding the onion and getting rid of that outer layer first that kind of easily fluffs off. And then as you get more and more success with that, and you see the progress, you see the improvement, see the condition of the mind, you have some success, you feel good about that, then you can kind of work into some of the more stronger things that you need to let go of. But since you decided to do this now, no harm, go forward. Yes, it sounds like you're very nervous, which is actually the craving and the clinging that's being triggered. And now this nervousness is coming up into the mind. Just keep cutting that off and cutting that off and cutting that off. And you might go through the whole entire thing and be very, very nervous. You're not going to be able to just let this go easily. But then when you get to the other side of this, you'll feel a bit better. And then you give yourself some space, some breathing room, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. In terms of getting rid of personal existence view, there's a number of proactive things that you can do. And if you look in volume 1, chapter 16, that's where I describe personal existence view in the most detail. And I describe the proactive things that you can be doing in order to eliminate personal existence view. And then once you've got a handle on those kinds of things, the Eightfold Path, the Breathing Mindfulness Meditation, the generosity, you've been doing some of those proactive things that is in chapter 16, then that's where it's a bit wiser to do what you're doing, which is putting your mind in those situations. Again, there's no harm in putting your mind in that situation now, but it would have been a bit more comfortable for you had you done some of this more preliminary work. But that's okay. Some people, when they go to swimming, they are in the shallow end and they kind of gradually work their way towards the deeper water. Some people just jump right in the deep end, right? That's just the way some people do it. So that's kind of like what you're doing here, and that's fine. You can still swim. You're not going to sink, right? So what I would suggest you do is, yes, go forward with what you're doing. That's wise. It's going to be helpful for you. It's only going to help you shed some of your personal existence view, but then go back to developing the Eightfold Path, the Breathing Mindfulness Meditation, the generosity, and look at chapter 16, where you can implement some of those proactive things so that now the next time you put your mind in a situation where personal existence view can potentially be triggered, your mind will be in a better condition and you won't experience quite as much nervousness and discontentedness as you are now. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just thank all of you guys for joining, whether you're on this live through Zoom or Facebook or YouTube, or whether you're attending by the replay. Thank you all for joining and being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. This Sunday, I'm going to be in chapter 23 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This chapter is titled Symbolism of the Teachings, Reminders Through Imagery. This is where I'm going to show you all the various symbolism that you'll see in the temple and in artwork and things like this, so that you'll understand when you see these things what this symbolism means. So it's a really fun chapter because we're going to be looking at different symbols and different pictures and different artwork and things like that as part of the class. And then, of course, on Wednesday next week, I'll be doing loving kindness meditation with you guys and opening up to any and all questions that you have. And then on Saturdays, we have the Pali Canon and English study group, which you're always welcome to attend. And then as you need help, just feel free to reach out in a live class. You can post in the Facebook group. You can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance. So have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.